Excuse my over analytical self. Well, I think that the kid needs help. 'Cause some days I wish I was somebody else. And I know that it's bad for my health. I'm scared, I'm afraid to admit it. All my friends say, Jansen, just forget it. But I feel like a shell of a human, of a human. Put on a brave face for ya, pretend that it's alright. Repaint my mind blood orange, so I can sleep through the night. Forgive my over-analytical mind. I know it'll come in time. I feel my head is falling to the floor. My room, my bed, my house, an open door. Is this all that there is, or something more? I don't know that I could be sure. Put on a brave face for ya, pretend that it's alright. Repaint my mind blood orange, so I can sleep through the night. Put on a brave face for ya, pretend that it's alright. Repaint my mind blood orange, so I can see the sunrise. I'm scared, I'm afraid to admit it. All my friends say, Jansen, just forget it. But I feel like a shell of a human, of a human. Put on a brave face for ya, pretend that it's alright. Repaint my mind blood orange, so I can sleep through the night. Put on a brave face for ya, pretend that it's alright. Repaint my mind blood orange, so I can see the sunrise.
So, aren't we all just waiting for rain, Brad? Is that what the lyric says?
That's what it says, baby. We're all just waiting for it.
Man, he's like I feel like it's like um, Brandon Flowers in like a Two Door Cinema Club vibe or something, and it's like his version of like, "Are we human or are we dancer?" Like
Dude, I
these like
know, right?
existential questions that I've never thought to ask myself. Am I a
Aren't we
human
all
or
just
am I a
waiting?
dancer?
That one gets me a little more. I think you brought that up on one of the last streams that I was watching.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it was fresh in my mind, which is why I brought it up. So before we get too deep into everything, thank you guys for being here, and for everybody who ends up watching this not live. You're going to miss out on whatever happens in the moment, and you'll just catch up with it later, and that's totally cool. If you're watching it right now, after the fact, you can't even tell the difference. It could be live. It's gonna have that same feeling for you
Who knows?
regardless. So I'm Chris Marniago, aka Voices Chris, as you see below. This is Hell Yes. We're all about celebrating the creative process and people who make it happen every step of the way. And Mondays we have an A&R based stream, which is for anybody who's interested in being in A&R and learning about A&R research, or if you are a creative person wondering what A&R people think about in their daily process. That streams for you. Wednesdays, we do demo listening, which is focused on unreleased music. How could it be better? We talk about it as a community collectively. And that was the OG stream and everything. But we added a Friday one because I quite frankly just miss getting to talk to my friends or people that, or getting to like meet people that I admire and like share in how awesome they are with everybody else. And you're on that stream right now. It's the interview stream with this beautiful bearded gem of a human, Brad Parker. So at any time, if you have any questions for me or for Brad, please drop it in the comments, and want to make sure that we get to those. I have a bunch of stuff to get through because I just have a million questions for you, Brad. But I also wanted to shout out some of the new followers that have come in. We actually just broke our goal of 400 followers today, which is exciting. So now the new goal is 450. It's more. But I just love the quality of everybody that comes into the streams. And you've actually joined some of these streams. So before we get into, because it's all about you, I just want to shout out Mal Writes Music, W. Riv, that's the fun thing. It's hard to say some of these names sometimes. Abby Watson, Jordan Anderson, It's Jay, B. Davis, NYXLIUS. What a waste too. Oh, congrats. Thanks, Kiwi. So, guys, I love starting out these interviews, leaving music out of it for a second. So, Brad, I'm going to ask you about where you grew up, and do your best to kind of leave music out of it if you can, and just talk about food, talk about people, talk about just like surroundings, any like early memories that like make up who you are and where you came from.
It's oddly easy for me to talk about growing up without music because it came a part of my life, I think, later down the road unexpectedly. But I grew up in Alcoa, Tennessee, which is about 30 minutes south of Knoxville, Tennessee. Super. I went to the one city school in the county, but definitely in a more rural area compared to like what Nashville is or bigger cities. Rolling hills, but we had our fancy Applebee's we could eat at after football games on Fridays. So
The
that was
fancy
always,
Applebee's. Did you ever partake in karaoke?
yeah, dude, yes, absolutely.
Well,
You grew up in the South in a small town. Whenever like the fancy places like Olive Garden or Applebee's, I feel like those are staples of
yeah,
Southern.
or Florida, where everything's a chain. Yo, Scotty, thank you for the raid, my friend. Welcome, Raiders. You are at the very beginning of an awesome stream with our friend Brad Parker here. You're gonna be super. If you're interested in live music, I know that some of you might not have even seen a live show. Like, it's crazy to think about a bunch of people who haven't gotten to see a live show yet because they just turned of age to go to a concert or something. But we're going to talk about live music. We're going to talk about management. We're going to talk about, I'm sure we'll talk about beards at some point.
Yeah.
And I do have a special note about Rally Patch, so we're going to get to that too.
Yes.
So that's what you're watching right now. Rip concerts, I know. How do I grow a beard? That's going to be a completely different stream, and it's gonna be on our OnlyFans. So, no, but like you said that, so it would be going to Applebee's in Alcoa.
Yeah, man, it's just like in a small foot. So my high school we won the state championship in football all 4 years in high school. So it was like very much the small town high school football team was like the heroes, and like that's the culture is like football, 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 like all the time. I went to high school with Randall Cobb, who played at the Packers for a while, and now he's in Texas. But football was definitely the culture through school, and yeah, man, just grew up in the South. Family was like typical like Southern Baptist growing up, and I somehow ended up not being a proper Southern Baptist, but you know, I learned things from it that definitely made me who I am today, and I love it, man. I love growing up in the South. Where are you from the South originally, or no?
Well, I mean, it depends on who you ask, right? Like, I'm from like the most northern part of the South, where I was born outside of DC in Arlington, Virginia. Like famously, like that part of the country was like pretty like undecided, like whether it was north or south. But then we moved to Florida, which is basically just like where all the crazy people go for one reason or another. And so I grew up down there for like half up in Virginia and then half in South Florida before.
Went to high school in Florida, though.
Yeah, I went to high school in south of Tampa. So I definitely there were definitely some southern things that happened, but I wouldn't qualify like the like middle of Florida is like south. Everything on the coast is like people from everywhere else. Like that was
you get a nice like melting pot there in the north and south. But yeah, man, just stereotypical. Like my favorite place in high school was this little shack in our neighborhood called Bread of Heaven. It was a barbecue spot, and this guy would just cook up like the best barbecue and mac and cheese that I've ever had in my life.
What kind of barbecue was it? Was it like
Dude, pulled pork, whole chicken, like everything. Like not vinegary, like a good mustard based sauce, not super vinegary sauce. I think and there was a place called Gracie's that was like, I would say like a mom and pop Cracker Barrel is the best way to put it. And it was this place called Gracie's, just ran by the same like old couple for like 40 years, and was just fantastic.
Dude, and then I guess like when did music start showing up in your life? Because you said it was kind of easy to leave it out. Like, so did it happen for you much later? Like, what role did music play?
I think as a fan, I mean, I was definitely a fan first before I ever even thought like this is something I want to do as a career in any aspect. I think late in high school, like junior and senior year, I started really using music as like a free therapist, I think, and going to Warped Tour when I could, and I think that's when it really, really started taking off.
Which being where you were, what was the closest like Warped Tour date for you?
Usually Charlotte or Atlanta were the two that I would go to. Charlotte was a longer drive, but always I liked it better than Atlanta. Atlanta was a little closer, but yeah, that was the first music scene I think that like captivated me, was like that, in like the Taking Back Sunday brand new like feud era Warped Tour. Like those were the days for me, like the heydays.
Oh man,
of my music love.
I'm trying to think. So wait, what years would those have been? Like, I'm trying to think.
Or like 2005, 2006, starting in that era.
Okay.
I went to Warped Tour for almost 10 years in a row.
Dude,
I
10 years in a row almost?
I think I went from 2005 to 2015. I'm almost positive.
That's amazing. So you pretty much almost caught them all in a sense. But yo, B-Chap, what's up? B-Chap says, hey, Chris. Hey, Brad.
What's up?
But so Warped Tour, like, so you would go just like as a fan, like, was there ever like in your mind? Because when I first saw a concert, I was like, I was 16. I was like, I want to be a part of that, and I didn't really know what that kind of meant or like how to do it. I just was like, oh, to do that, like there's the band and then there's the fans, and that's about all there is. So I was like, I guess like the band thing looks really fun. I should try that. I barely know how to play this guitar, but like, what was your like? What did you think when you saw your first concert? Was that the thing that made you set down like going to work on music, or what did you think when you started getting into it, other than that this is a good therapeutic outlet for me?
Well, I think that is what really started whenever I got into college.
You went to
My
University of Tennessee?
Yeah, in Knoxville. And in halfway through college, like starting my sophomore year, I started doing promotions at like a local radio cluster just by chance that one of the morning show hosts in Knoxville for a long time was a family friend of my mom's, and she was like, "We've got this position open that you might love and want to do, and you can do it while you're in school." So I didn't even think anything of it. I started doing that job, and then working shows at the radio station brought me back to my first days at Warped Tour of going, oh, I love this because this is the conduit of me listening to a song in my bedroom, connecting with the lyrics, and then literally tangibly experiencing that from the person who it came from originally in a live setting. And so that was the spark, I think, that was like, okay, I want to be a part of this. I want to facilitate this relationship in some way. I didn't know how at the time. I just knew I wanted to be a part of getting the fan there in that room to hear the songs the way that I heard the songs.
Dude, it sounds like kind of like a perfect, like there's I feel like people so often like discount like serendipity in the music business, and I feel like that's like a key ingredient is like right place, right time kind of thing, and like opening yourself up to the possibility. But Matt asked in the chat, who was playing the first Warped Tour you went to?
I just saw that, and I was trying to look. I was trying to look and cheat real quick. I want to say Alkaline. I want to say Alkaline Trio, but I don't know if they were like headlining at the time. I know Yellow Card. I know I saw Yellow Card the first year. Alkaline Trio. I want to say. I need to go back and look because 2000. It might be. It was either 5 or 6. One of the two. Is that too early for Yellow Card? I don't think it is.
I don't think that's too early for Yellow Card. I think that's like right on time for them. But
yeah, I want to say Yellow Card was the headliner. Dude. But Matt, if you want to fact check me while you're listening to this, let's do it.
That's amazing. So, I mean, you mentioned going to University of Tennessee, and you went for public relations, advertising, and applied communication, right?
Yeah.
So, like, do you feel like what made you go into that, like what made you study that specifically, and do you feel like it kind of prepared you for a job in music, or were you still sort of like you were doing this gig while you were in school but you weren't like fully decided or committed to getting involved in music yet, like, or was it something else?
The educational decision was already made in my head. To be honest with you, I watched too much Mad Men like my freshman year of college, and I was like, I want to be Don Draper. So I became an ad major, but through the radio station, this is my full circle, I guess, how I got kind of to where I am sitting here today talking to you. Through the radio station, I started connecting with people in the marketing department at AC Entertainment who founded Bonnaroo. They, oddly enough, based and founded in Knoxville. And so they were buying ads for their shows at the local theaters they manage on our radio station. So I got to know them that way. And then as I was graduating, going to be ready to go into my master's program, they offered me a part-time job. I got a part-time job there through just knowing them as like an office assistant, essentially. And that was a great opportunity for me to get into the promoter world because I didn't really know what a promoter was, but also to see just the 900 different departments and things you can do within the promoter world itself. Whether you're buying talent or you're a marketer or you're physically doing the production of the festivals or the shows. So that was really what launched me. I was too far in the game to change my degree at that point, but I was like, this is what I want to do forever. So I started trying to figure out what I wanted to do at that point.
And did you, before college, did you have any jobs that like weren't music related?
No, man, I worked at Home Depot until I got that radio job.
Oh, there you go,
Yeah,
dude. I,
just slinging two by fours, man.
dude, these days, like, I think Kristen and I end up going to Lowe's more than we go to Home Depot, for a couple different reasons, but we like get so excited to go into like the gardening department and like just get like plants for the spring, and that's coming up here pretty soon. So I'm excited about that. I guess the so you knew pretty immediately that live music was like what you wanted to be involved in. There wasn't like you never had a curiosity for like, oh, I wonder if I would be a good booking agent, or like did you feel like where you started out, and I have tons of questions about strategic partnerships and everything else, but I'm just
Yeah.
curious about, I feel like a lot of people that might be watching this stream right now are sort of in that space of they're trying to decide what they want to do, or like they're like, I'm not sure, maybe I could be an agent, I could be an A&R person, I could be a manager, I could be a lawyer, I could do this or whatever. Like, did you sort of have those, I could do this, I could do that, but kind of
Um,
thoughts in your head at all, or was it pretty just like, did you feel like it was like just a natural progression for you?
it was kind of another serendipity moment. Honestly, I'm a person, and some people are not like this, but I'm a person that, in order for like being passionate about my work is really what drives me. Like some people can just crush their work every day, but not actually like care and like unplug from that at the end of the day. But in order to not suck at my job, I have to be passionate about it. Like if I'm going to work with an artist, I truly have to like the artist's music and care about the artist's music. And I know some people are just good managers or good marketers. It doesn't matter if they like the music or not; they just get the business. Um, but for me, I had this moment where that light switch kind of flipped because when I was starting to have the conversations with AC Entertainment and was still working in radio, I was doing country at the time, really deep in the country world, and we did a show with this artist Justin Moore, and we were doing a meet and greet, like a radio meet and greet, after the show, and I was at the back of the line trying to just finish everything up, get everybody through, and this guy came out of nowhere and got behind me in line, and I was like, "Hey man, you can go before me. I'm trying to go last. I work at the station." And he was like, "Man, I really want to go last. Like I want to talk to Justin for an extra few minutes." And I was like, "Oh great, this is not going to be good at all." So then we get through the line and we get to the front, and this kid, he was probably, I don't know, 22, 23. He walks up to Justin and he's like, "Hey man, honestly, I don't know any of your songs. I don't like country music. I don't listen to it. I don't know much about you, but I came here because I have to give you something." And he pulled out a set of dog tags out of his pant
Oh,
pocket
damn.
and handed it to him. And he said, "I don't know any of your stuff, man, but I know that when my brother was in Afghanistan, you're all he listened to, and he didn't come back. So I felt like I needed to come and give you these." And so that was the moment for me. I was like, "Holy crap. Like this is the real tangible thing that the relationship that music can create between two people. They don't even have to care about the music. It creates like a synergy of emotion that can connect anybody with anybody." So that was the moment. That was like the light bulb on moment for me, I think.
That's wild. Can you hear my cat in the background?
No.
That's so funny. I can hear it, and I'm realizing part of the thinking with starting at 7 has to do with that's when she eats and when she's the most quiet.
Well, lucky for you, I can't hear it. So I don't
Good.
think
Okay. Well, then we passed that test. But I mean, that's amazing, and it's funny because my next question was gonna be talking about like any shows in particular besides Warped Tour and besides that moment that you were just talking about that like stand out as like impactful, just like moments in your life, whether professionally or just personally.
Yeah, one of very early at AC, we I became known as like the resident country guy because AC had really, they had grown up in the jam band era with Bonnaroo, and so they had really specialized in a bunch of alt and indie stuff as a promoter, and never really focused in the country space. And so I wanted to help them get into that. And one of the first shows that they came to me, I was like, we need to do this show, make it a door deal. I don't care what it is, what they want, it'll sell out. And it was Luke Combs, and
Damn.
this was in 2017, I think, right whenever he was about to bubble. But I had been following him, and we got a 500 cap theater called the Bijou Theater in Knoxville. It sold out in about 45 minutes when the show went up. I went to the show. I was just riding the wave of like, I felt like I had proved myself to like the people at AC, like this kid knows what he's talking about. So I was riding that energy. And I just remember, I just love seeing artists like move up. Like I got to see him play the Bijou Theater, and then we put him in an arena the next year. And now he's, breaking every Billboard record that's ever existed. And he's just become a monster. And it's fun, I think, no matter what part of the music industry you're in, to see that evolution of an artist. Because some artists skip multiple steps, but when you get to see the full, someone who's really worked through playing at Buffalo Wild Wings to playing at a small theater to an arena, like it's just very rewarding, man. Super rewarding. I'm sure you've had the same experience with artists that you've worked closely with.
Yeah, man, and I agree. There's nothing like it, and then it's always cool to kind of like look, like see new fans come at like every stage along the way. I feel like some people look at it and they're like, oh, like they don't know where the artist comes from or anything like that. Like I've personally never had this like, animosity towards new fans coming in or bands experimenting with their sound or trying new things, like because I just want bands I like to like stick around. And I'm like, I don't like every song, I don't have to like every album. I just love the honesty whenever a project like can assert itself creatively on a record, and I feel like that just continues into the live space as well. So just speaking of quality, like what because I do want to get into more of the like work related stuff, but what does make like a good show in your opinion? Why is it that people like Luke Combs can build an audience like they did versus maybe some others that have some good songs but maybe don't pull it off live? I guess, yeah. What do you feel like is the difference there for you?
I think for me, and people throw this word around so much, and I don't really know if I know the metric that I'm trying to describe, but like there is with someone like Luke Combs, and you see it in country a lot, and I think it's not rare to see it in more commercial like pop or anything, but when it does happen, it comes across. I think Taylor Swift's a great example, but just authenticity. Like fans that go into a Luke Combs show or a Taylor Swift show, they think or they know based upon the actions of the artist that like that artist can relate to them. They actually care about them as fans. Every Luke Combs fan that walks into a show goes, I know that guy would drink a beer with me. Like he's busy. He probably can't do it tonight, but like, I know if he had the chance, like he would sit down on my truck outside and he'd drink a beer with me. And there's some artists you can look at and just, you can't say those thoughts in your head because you just know that that's not the kind of person they are, which is not, I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way, but for me, the authenticity is what translates in the live setting so well. And it just creates an energy that just can't be matched at all.
Man, I feel that. And, you talk about you've talked about like how the artist and fan like interaction inspires you to do what you do. So when you got into doing strategic partnerships with Live Nation and Bonnaroo, AC Entertainment, I suppose would be the more like, I always get confused with the like, I feel like it's almost like the major label world where it's like there's the subsidiaries, but they're all part of Warner Music Group or Sony or Universal or whatever. I guess I would love to know like what goes into the decision making process for you, and consider that there might be creatives on the stream wondering like what people in those positions are looking for, like under more normal circumstances. Of course, like right now it's different, but
Yeah.
all things being normal, quote unquote. Um, yeah, I'm just curious, like how do those decision making process like get made? Is it like the most famous artists gets the biggest looks, or like how does it? There's so many bands that play a festival or that come through on a tour. Like how do you choose which ones get those opportunities and which ones don't?
Yeah. So I think that I'll kind of answer in two parts because I think there's an answer to artists that we partner with, and there's an answer to brands that we partner with. Um, and we kind of go about it the same way. I think something that AC has done well as a promoter, and it's kind of coded in my DNA now, is that they treated their festivals like a living, breathing thing, not just a brand. So a festival like I'll use Bonnaroo as reference because it's the most one that most people would know. um, Bonnaroo has things and values and belief that are intrinsic to what people perceive as that brand. So sustainability, gay rights, those kind of things, social causes. So when we're partnering with artists or brands, especially artists that they're not just going to perform at the festival and leave, they're going to do some sort of activation or integration within the festival. It's important that our beliefs and the brand's beliefs and the artist's beliefs that we're all on the same page and we're not trying to fit um, you know a square peg in a round hole. Like it's got to make sense. So and Bonnaroo's always tried to be like a taste maker festival too, so you see a very eclectic mix of genres. And I mean, I went from seeing, this year, if it would have happened, you would have been able to see um, God, Lizzo, and then you could have maybe seen John Prine, or you could have maybe seen, it's weird that the kind of thread you can follow through a festival like Bonnaroo, but really it's about making sure that you can cohesively align the values of the brand and what their goals are, or the artist, with the festival's goals and values, without messing with the integrity of either of those in the process, which seems easy, but sometimes it can be a tricky task.
Oh, and I'm sure like not every artist or brand is going to be completely like honest in a sense, right? Like you almost kind of have to do your own research too, because they might sort of highlight things that make that like they might highlight the reasons why they would be a good fit, but exclude the reasons why they might not be a good fit. And you have all of these options, and I feel like it seems like you have all these people vying for those opportunities, but not every one of them makes sense. So I was just curious, and it's cool to know that it sounds like it's really about just like getting everybody on the same page and who the best partners for that page are going to be. um, I guess like what, besides the obvious of like the festivals that you went to and everything like that, like what drew you to taking up that position, and like what do you feel like made you qualified to even do the job in the first place?
It's a good question. I think that the marketing and advertising work I did in school is what drew me towards. I just felt like I had a knack for understanding the creative and conceptualizing creative, like on the brand side. And so it felt, after being at AC for I think about 2 years before I went into that specific role, I felt like I had a great grasp on what the festivals meant and what the goals were with each festival. And it just seemed like a natural fit for me to say, okay, I understand what we're doing, and I have not only a degree that supports that I know what the brands want to do, but I also just feel like I have a good knack for the creative side on the brand strategy side. So it just felt natural for me to like put two and two together and see. It was also a great opportunity within AC Entertainment because it was a department that was growing, but hadn't really been like a huge focus. It had been one of those things where like my boss who was running the department was wearing like 14 different hats, and I was able to go in and be like, hey, why don't you give me 7 of those hats and you can keep the other 7 hats. and then we'll figure out down the road what all's going on. So it was a mix between me pairing things I thought I was good at, and also just a very good timing within the development of the company for me to say, let me jump in here and see if I can help out.
Could you maybe walk us through an example? And I feel like when I say walk us through, I'm like interviewing you for some position, and at the end of it, I'll be like, you're hired. But no, I'm genuinely curious. Like, if you could walk us through, I would love to hear kind of two perspectives. One perspective being a partnership that you set up that was just like the perfect fit, and it, like, whatever example kind of first comes to your mind. I want to hear that perspective, but I also want to hear the perspective because as a creative person on the A&R side, I know that sometimes putting producer that does this, an artist that does this might look good and sound good on paper, but people are people, and then it doesn't always end well. So I would love to know those two scenarios, like one where you felt like it was like perfect synergy, everything worked together to achieve a goal, and then I would love to know a situation where maybe everything looks and sounds good on paper, but maybe didn't have the effect you thought it would.
Yeah, I've got two good examples and one of the not good examples. I'll do the two good ones first because I think one of them you'll like. So a couple of years ago, 2020's got my timeline all messed up. 2019.
Yeah, just add a year to whenever you thought it happened, and that's when it probably happened.
2019, we actually partnered and did outside of Bonnaroo, Cinnaru, which is the main venue where the shows happen. Outside in the campgrounds, because we camp people there for 5 days. Outside in the campgrounds, we started cultivating these little they used to be called pods, but we built basically these structures that were permanent out there and tried to build little cities out in the campgrounds and theme each of those. But it was a place where you could get water and basic necessities and food and all of that stuff. So I helped with a larger team, not just myself, kind of figure out partners to put in each of those areas. And two of them were wildly successful. The first one was we partnered with Haley from Paramore to do basically a pod that was themed on like mental health and self-love and that kind of stuff. That's a lot of donuts.
Oh, I know. And I was just gonna say, oh man, Chaselin, hey everybody, we got a raid from.
Let's go.
Whoa, that's crazy. But so Chaselin's an incredible singer and songwriter, artist. We've been a fan of her stream for a while, and she's actually going to be we're going to be interviewing her next week on this channel. So for everybody who's in the raid, thank you so much for being here. You're with me, Chris, Voices Chris. I'm a professional A&R person, and getting to interview my professional bearded beauty over here, Brad Parker, on the live music business, his career and management, because he works with some really excellent artists. And you're on the Friday interview stream, which Chaselin's going to be a part of next week. I'm super excited about it. I'm saying hi to Go, Josh. Dude, I love the donuts. I need to have like food themed emotes on mine. Like mine are all like very like music focused and everything.
Those are good looking donuts.
No, for real. They look amazing. It reminds me of like Five Daughters donuts, and like I can't stop. Like I don't know if you noticed, but they do mini donuts now, and they're great. Especially if you're trying to, if like you're indecisive like me, I end up like eating all of them. But oh yeah, Chaselin, Matt, Luke, we all talk about how you love Five Daughters. Dude, it's so good. It's so good. I'm obsessed with the there's like they have a raspberry filled one that's amazing. So I didn't mean to stop you, because it's funny that I remembered when Haley was talking about doing that, because it was Good Die Young was part of that, right?
Yeah, they were like the main. So the whole pod was kind of centered around self-care and mental health. They did a bunch of conversations. Some Haley were involved in. They had a whole salon set up with Good Die Young, and Haley was in there, and you could come get your hair dyed and cut and styled. and that was one that just made perfect sense because the mental health thing is a big part of the Bonnaroo messaging
Yeah.
and a big part of Haley's brand, for herself.
I mean, talk about sustainability in a sense. It's like
Yeah,
self-sustainability.
exactly. So that was one that went off fantastic. And we also that same year partnered with the NCVC, which is the Nashville Conventions and Visitor Center Bureau, which is like Visit Nashville. Um, but the whole thought behind that was they were trying to figure out. We had all this data that showed that all these people were flying in for Bonnaroo from outside of the state. I mean, we had people from all 50 states, and but they were flying to Nashville, driving straight to the festival, driving straight back and flying. They weren't spending any time like in downtown Nashville because Bonnaroo, it's an hour south. So we went to them and said, "Hey, let's bring Nashville to Bonnaroo." So we set up a whole thing that we had Princess Hot Chicken, we had Third Man Records, we had a bunch of Nashville like staples um, set up. We painted.
Did
one
you
of
guys
the
have
walls.
$5 at all or no?
Yeah, dude.
You
We had
did?
Eighth and roast coffee. We had a bunch of just local things, and people loved it because people were out there that had never been to Nashville, were from Lord knows where international, and they were like, "Man, I might come back and actually check out Nashville because these things seem pretty cool." Third Man Records was selling vinyl, and it was great. And then sometimes it doesn't work how you think it will. And I think this you mentioned earlier, I don't think it's necessarily about like our team and an artist team not being honest with each other. It's probably more of like just not communicating everything that obviously should be communicated. But a couple of years back, we work with Headcount and a couple of different nonprofits at Bonnaroo, and one of the nonprofits, they get people to do certain actions to be able to like win meet and greets or get in the pit for a headliner show or whatever. And there was an artist we partnered with the nonprofit one year to give away meet and greets, but the action that they had to do to win this meet and greet was they had to go sign a bill that had to do with gun control. Well, the day that this was going to happen, that the fans were going to go meet this artist, the manager came and said, "Hey, like our artist is like pro NRA. Like we don't think that this is a thing. Like something horrible has happened here. Like this is that we cannot do this at all. We cannot be talking about gun control because this artist supports the NRA." And it was like, how did this never come up until now? So that was a little bit of a disaster. But
Yeah, like what do you guys do in that situation?
we had to go to the fan. I mean, we had to just pull the stuff down and go to the fans, and we just had to candidly explain to them what had happened, and we made it up to them. We gave them a great experience, but
Like wait, pull the initiative or pull the like just the artist from participating in that initiative?
so no, yeah. So basically, the way that specific one was working is it was something that was happening live at the festival.
Got it.
So you showed up at the festival, you found this nonprofit. They said, "Hey, if you do this, it'll sign you up, and we'll text you if you win to go see X or do X."
Got it.
And so it wasn't something that had been going on for like months and months. So it was kind of an easy fix, but also like something that maybe should have never happened in the first place if just there was maybe a little bit better communication from both sides. But I would say 95% of the time, man, it
It like doesn't go off unless everybody's on the same page, pretty much.
yeah. And in general, like I think we only approach sponsors, and sponsors only approach us that already have a pretty good understanding that we're on the same page as far as what we're trying to accomplish. So it's a real fun space to work in, man. You can get really creative with brands on how you activate at a festival.
Man,
Um,
yeah, I love that. And I mean, speaking of brands, I also remember like one of the first time that I met you. It was like extra memorable because you had left like some rally patches behind, and this is kind of it was not only useful, but it was also symbolic of just your interest in a variety of things beyond just music. I guess I wanted to talk about that a bit, like what got you involved on that side of things.
Yeah, so Rally
And could you
Patch,
explain what it is for people?
yeah. So Rally Patch is basically, the quick way to explain it is it's a transdermal patch that is made up of vitamin B12 for the most part, that you put on your skin before you drink and while you're drinking and overnight while you sleep. The B12 gets in your system and basically boosts your liver to be able to process and break down the fats and alcohol faster, because the backup of that processing is what causes a hangover. That's like the fatigue of your liver not being able to do work. So, um, yeah, I got involved with Rally Patch, I guess, in early 2018. When I moved to Nashville, um, I was desperately just networking everywhere for anything, not just in the music biz, trying to meet as many people as possible because I didn't know a whole lot of people here. And when I moved here with the AC team, we only had about 9 or 10 people in our office here, so a very small group, compared to the like 60 that I was working with in Knoxville. So, um, yeah, two friends that I had met, Andrew Cohen and Jared Hawley, who are artist managers. They came to me and said, "Hey, we're getting into this. It's kind of random, but we're looking for another partner and investor." And um, I had a little bit of money saved up, and I was like, you know what? I always talk about wanting to be an entrepreneur, so why not take the risk? And so we launched in April of 2018, and I've had pretty good success selling through Amazon and being a prime item. And for me, it's just been more of a passive thing to just kind of keep my uh, executive CEO like brain going, to not just think about music constantly, because I think it's easy to get caught up in the minutia of the music business when I still need to hone just my business skills in
Yeah.
general. Um, so I'm always looking for things like that, whether it's investing in something if I can, or just being a consultant for something. I love marketing. I love brand strategy and creative and coming up with ad campaigns and stuff like that. So it was very random, but I'm thankful that it was something that happened to me because it's taught me a lot.
I was gonna say, I feel like that it almost forces you to think outside of like look at like kind of just like how a problem gets presented to you and you can affect it in music. So there's a question in the chat, and by the way, I forgot to mention to all the raiders that are here, if you have a question and you want to know something about the live business, you just the music business in general, you want to know anything about Brad or me, that I mean, we are going to talk about a bunch of stuff, but if you have a question that based on anything you're hearing, please feel free to drop it in the chat, like Matt here, who says, what is your favorite quality and tour managers that you've worked with, or least favorite? Like, do you interact with tour managers much on the AC side, or did you deal with that more so on the management side that we'll get to in a bit?
I dealt with tour managers, on and off on site at festivals, just depending upon what I was having to do. But I think with anyone, the live music business is driven by people who, for the most part, are just, they get the lifestyle. So they're not, you get your cranky people every once in a while, but most of them are used to, like, I'm doing this 24 hours a day. I'm living in, if I'm lucky enough, I'm in a van or a bus, but maybe not even in that. Maybe you're in SUVs. But I think
There's
just,
some pretty nice SUVs out there.
yeah, man, and some large ones at that. But empathy, man, just being empathetic. People who, when you're working in a festival environment or live show environment, everything is so fast paced, and you've got to be problem solvers with the people around you, and just being able to be empathetic and understand that some guy lashes out at you, or some stagehand lashes out at you, it's probably not you that he's lashing out at. It's probably just the shitty 18-hour day that he's working. And when you get to where you realize that, it just helps you get through the day. And a lot of tour managers, they're one of the few positions that kind of see everybody, because they're with an artist pretty much anytime the artist is out facing any sort of public or consumer or industry. So they kind of get to interact with every element that the artist does. And so a lot of those guys and girls are great. So I think empathy is the one I would say. I don't have a least favorite. Being late and just not answering emails is my biggest pet peeve ever. Um, but other than that, I don't think I have many complaints.
I feel that. Well, I mean, speaking of like people who interact with all different aspects of artist stuff, I got to really know you through your management endeavors, TBD Management, which you launched in 2019. So I guess what was it like, especially in the beginning, balancing both management and other duties like that you had with AC, and how do you view that balance today with how everything's changed?
Um, it was for me. It almost was not. I don't want to say easier because that makes it sound really dumb. They complemented each other so well that it didn't feel like I had taken on an extra job. It just felt like my one job had gotten a little bit busier, if that makes sense. Um, I was really lucky to work at a company like AC that saw the entrepreneurial spirit in me, and that I wanted to be in management, but also recognizing the value I brought to them. So they supported me in doing it as long as I was still performing at the level they needed me to with my day job, doing festivals. So it was a hard balance at first, just because the management world, I just had no idea. I was learning it. And the festival world, I knew like the back of my hand. So 1 hour of the day, I'd be like, oh, I know exactly what I'm doing. And the next hour I would be like, I need Wikipedia. Like, what am I doing here? So, um, but over the past, 2020, with festivals not happening and everything that kind of went down with the live business, I
It seems
really,
like it's been tough for management too.
yeah. But I was kind of lucky in the sense of, I really wanted, my whole focus with management from the beginning, pre-COVID, was to work with developmental acts. So I was never in it. I never was counting on it financially because I knew it was going to be a long haul of getting acts and developing them to where they are making revenue at all. Um, so in 2020, I was really lucky. I sat back and I saw all these management companies that were just trying to, plug holes and keep water out of the ship, and keep their employees on and not have to lay people off. And I was fortunate that while they were doing that, there were still artists that were right there at that point where they were needing to find someone to manage them. So I took advantage of that, and I started meeting with as many artists as I could that I felt, that I could be passionate about the music and enjoy. Um, and the Mile 24 now Gold Park guys, that I think is how I originally came to your and Steve's office.
So they did change their name after all.
Yeah. They to sign
What
the
was
deal.
funny
They
was
will
when I heard the name, or when I heard the song, I was like, this sounds like those guys.
Yeah, exactly. It's same guys. Had to change their name legally for us to get into the label deal that we're in. But um, man, I just been incredibly blessed the last year to focus on working with these artists and not have to worry. I've found odd jobs and stuff to, contracts here and there to pay the bills, and really just wanted to come out of this thing feeling like I had, built something with my management company and the artists I was working with, despite the unfortunate circumstances that were going on.
I feel that. So, I mean, just as somebody who's had to balance like a couple different things, do you have any advice for anybody who might be watching this that are considering juggling a couple different jobs? Because it sounds like you kind of did it out of like almost like a personal necessity, right? Where it's like you didn't want to kind of, you wanted to be able to kind of like try new things and not be like closed off to new ideas because you're looking at it through one lens. Like you wanted to kind of like widen your scope a bit, it seems. So I guess what kind of advice would you give to somebody who is considering taking on a bunch of stuff, or not a bunch of stuff, excuse me, like just taking on like a couple of gigs? Because I know I say a bunch of stuff because I feel like I talk to a lot of, I feel like this is like a young thing to do, which is like you believe you can kind of do everything, so you do everything.
Yeah.
I guess what is the balance there for you?
For me, So this is very random, and I don't think I have this anywhere on my resume, so you wouldn't even know if you did the research. But um, at the end of last year, when I officially got let go from Live Nation because of the pandemic, I actually did a 4-month contract working for the Secretary of State in Tennessee for the election. So I did a 4-month campaign, basically recruiting companies to get their employees registered to vote in the state of Tennessee. And that was obviously something way outside the scope of what I'm used to doing. Um, but I was very open with them. And I think my advice is for anyone that's trying to juggle something they're passionate about and want to do long term with something that solves your financial problems in the moment, is that be open to the people that you're going to about that, because you'd be surprised how many times those people will support you and be understanding of what you're trying to do. And they've maybe had someone that did that for them in the past. So when I started the job with the state and working for the government, which is a sentence I thought I never would say in my life, I told them, like, hey, this is kind of a bridge for me. Like, my industry is completely destroyed. I'm just trying to make ends meet. And they were super supportive of, like, listen, man, we need you from 7 to 4. And then, after 4, or if you need to take an extra long lunch break or whatever, like, we don't care. Like, we want you to get back to where you're happy and what you want to do. So it's just about finding yourselves in the hard times and surrounding yourselves with people that just understand what you're doing. Um, and I think, as far as, like, outside of the context of just the pandemic in 2020, I went to a keynote conversation with, this was like 2 years ago, beginning of 2019. I saw a keynote in LA with Michael Rapino, the CEO of Live Nation, and Dave Grohl. And something that Dave said that has stuck with me, which seems so obvious. I'm pretty sure if I Googled it, he had to have stole it from somewhere else. But he just said, it's only, like, anything you do in life, it's only work if you like, it's only work if you don't want to do it. So find that thing that you just don't like, find that thing that you don't have to have the thought in your head of, this is not something I look forward to, or that I don't want to do, because that's what makes it work. So I don't know if I answered your question. I think I maybe did in a roundabout way, but
No, I think that was well said, as far as like doing the things that you have to do the things that you want to do, and just making sure you balance it, and that ultimately you are enjoying the things that you're attempting to make a career out of, so I mean, and you mentioned it a few times, and I feel like it's kind of impossible to ignore, especially when there's the live space at all. It's talking about your extensive experience in that space, and just curious to hear your thoughts surrounding COVID-19, and like, what did you think, like, when you first heard about the virus, and did you think that it was going to have the impact that it did?
yeah. So I think I kind of saw the writing on the wall earlier than some, at least in Nashville, because I kind of, as far as the live space is concerned in Nashville, and you can probably extremely relate to this, Nashville is still very heavily country when it comes to the infrastructure of the live music and industry that's here.
Yeah.
But I was always, people people here know Luke Combs and Alan Jackson and all these people, but I was the one working with, like, Lizzo and all these artists that were not in the Nashville scene or community.
Yeah.
And being a part of Live Nation, I think it was probably, let's see, our last day we worked in office was March. It was Friday the 13th, which I hate that that's what it was. Middle of February, Live Nation had a couple of their Asian markets and offices that they sent home from working to work at home, and started canceling some shows in, like, Southeast Asia. And so I really saw the writing on the wall. Like, I was like, if we have one case in the US, like, that's going to be, it's going to be the same thing. Like, they're going to send us home, they're going to cancel shows. And so it's been just a wild ride, man. I think that it's crazy how much, especially from a financial perspective, one, the amount of people that the live sector employs, how many people rely on that money to survive, but also, like, the revenue model for artists, how much heavily it relies on touring and being able to make money from touring. So it's been a tough ride for everyone, but I really truly think that when it comes back and when we can do it safely, it's going to be like a renaissance of just amazing, not new art, music that comes from this, the sense of community that's going to just be like pouring gas on a fire whenever we get to go back to that first real show where we're not standing apart and we're just able to get in the pit and just love each other, get in the pit and try to love someone. I think Fred Durst did that.
Oh, dude, it's I was gonna say it's kind of
It's
like
rough.
it's scary even thinking about being in like a crowd of people and stuff, and it's like it's even weirder when I like see people I know, my friends, and I'm like, holy crap, it's like Wally with the resub. And
Let's go.
that epic music, Wally, Trevor Wall, everybody. How has it been 5 months already? I don't know, man. We were just talking about this. It's been a year has passed by. It's like it's that Frank Ocean lyric. So, I guess how do you see the industry evolving like during all of this?
I think really the changes will be. It's really weird. I think the changes will be not as noticeable as you think. I think from a consumer and fan standpoint, the biggest change will be the change of like, oh shit, we can do this again. Like we're doing this. I think that people don't even realize yet how much not having those experiences has maybe affected their mental health or their outlook on certain things. I think on the industry side, there's going to be a huge look at just how the deals in live music are structured. Who's taking the risk? How are we mitigating the risk? How do we set ourselves up and protect ourselves from if this happens again as an industry to make sure that it doesn't shut us down completely? I think there'll be a lot of looking back at. I don't think there are things we could have done different as an industry. I think it was going to take us down regardless, because there were outside actions that maybe weren't taken or couldn't be taken that would have helped. But I think it'll just be a big reflection period, man, of making sure that this can't happen again to our industry, and making sure that not everyone or one company or one part of the business is taking a lot of the risk, or just more working together. It was so weird whenever all this started happening. I've never seen Live Nation and AEG and Paradigm and CAA and all these companies come together like they did for figuring out how to survive this. And not that they did, but they tried their best. So I think that'll be the biggest change, man. It's just a big look in the mirror for the music industry to say, are we prepared for this to happen again? I hope it never does, but we have to have a plan now. It can't be a question of hoping it never does. It has to be, what are we doing if it does happen again? So
yeah, and I mean, outside looking in, that's what it feels like still a little bit, is that people are like looking for band-aids. They're just like, oh, we'll like fix it for now. But I'm personally of the opinion that I feel like the live business has kind of been flawed long before this, in the sense of like, and that's the like world that I like love. That's the world that got me into music. But like, I think about the parents that want to have kids and like want to still have some kind of like live income but aren't able to tour, or somebody who might have like some health condition that prohibits them from touring, or a number of different things, safety concerns, risk, cost for artists, like to go and do an entire national tour. It's expensive, and it can be cost prohibitive and honestly hurt artists in the long run. And I think the companies aren't designed to sort of support that kind of stuff. So that's where I'm curious about like and so a lot of people look at like live streaming, and like we're on this platform Twitch right now, right? And it's like, but the other thing I've seen people do is like everybody is like starting a streaming service of some kind and having like one event, and then they don't really have an event again for like a few months or whatever. And I just wonder about those like, that doesn't feel like a good fan experience to me. It just feels like a money grab band-aid thing. And I guess what is your perspective on live streaming and how it fits into that plan that you're talking about?
Well, I think the biggest problem with live streaming is that forever, since literally its existence as being able to be something that artists can do, we've just had it as something free that people can, whether it's Instagram Live or it's whatever, we've given a lot of fans access to these streams, but never charged them for it. And then we were in a position where all of a sudden we had to go, wait, this thing you've been doing for free for the past 8 years, I now need you to pay $5 or $10 or $20. And then you're also doing that in a time when there is a financial crisis going on. And the second part, which is the bigger picture, is that none of that, nothing virtual replicates the live music experience. That's the biggest problem. So then you have to pivot to.
But is that the goal though?
Is what the goal?
Is the goal to replicate the live in-person experience?
I think that was the goal when the pandemic started, and then we quickly realized you just can't do it. So now we have to find a way to have the live experience safely. Like that's the only other thing. So then you had the drive-in shows and you had the pod shows where you sit at a table of 4 people and you can't go near anyone else and you can't go to the bar. They have to come to you to bring your drinks. And that causes all sorts of other infrastructure problems with what it takes to run an event like that. Your expenses are way up, your capacity's down, so you're just in the hole. I can tell you for sure over the past year, any events that have happened, no one in those situations has made money. Those have been put on for the sake of trying to just get people back to work. Whether it be vendors or production workers or artist touring teams. That's all been in the name of, we just need to get people paid however we can, but to be honest with you, man, I do agree the system, as far as supporting independent artists and supplementing what it costs to tour, and the fact that, I think the last study that I saw from 2019 was that your typical artist, 85% of their revenue is going to come from touring. That's a huge problem, I think, for the industry. I think that means we're either overvaluing what we're paying artists, which I don't think is the case, or we're undervaluing the other ways that artists are being paid. So do artists need to make more money from merch? Do they need to make more money from songwriting? What are other sectors of the industry that can step up and say, okay, we need to pay a little bit more loyalty and royalties here, to where maybe 50% of your income is from touring and 25% is from merch and licensing. I think that's a way bigger discussion that needs to happen. That's honestly advantageous for everybody involved, I think.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, speaking of just like shifting and trying new things, like during the pandemic, you took on a role with Triller for a bit, and we're talking about, TikTok has taken over in this sort of very like short form, algorithmic based like delivery of authentic content to people, has gotten bigger and bigger. So I guess I would love to know like what your experience was like with that, given what you said before about like you did the live show thing, you learned a lot from these other jobs that you had taken on. Was Triller sort of like another chapter in that process of like learning and growing for you?
Yeah, I really, the Triller thing was a very interesting opportunity for me to bring my music experience to a tech company that wanted to foot first be a music company. Like Triller's whole thing to separate them from TikTok was that they wanted to be artist and creator friendly from the music side. The tech that Triller has in their app for editing and splicing audio and syncing it with video is miles ahead of TikTok, but their problem was, one, they didn't have anywhere near the amount of users that TikTok had. TikTok has like 1 billion users around the world, and I think Triller's around 100 million. And all of this is public information, so it's not like I'm sharing things I shouldn't be. But and Triller got really started heavily in the urban space. They had a lot of rappers and hip hop executives that were early investors. So that was their audience when they launched the platform. So now their biggest, not even struggle, because they're doing a great job to figure it out, but their biggest thing is how do we get out of not being pigeonholed in that urban space and get into country and get into like influencers as a whole outside of the music space. And so it was great, man, because I had always wanted to learn the tech side of things, and the short form video, that whole space, and just consumer habits and the amount of consumption that is going on is across all media right now is just absurd. I saw Spotify put out the other day an article that they're releasing 40,000 tracks a day on Spotify, which is, think about that. Think about the number. And I would say 95% of those will never have more than 1,000 streams, but 40,000 tracks a day. I mean, how do you even compete in that? And with TikTok, it's the same thing. I mean, how many TikTok videos are posted a day? I guarantee you it's in the millions of, double digit millions, I would assume. So yeah, man, it was fun to peek behind the curtain of the tech world for a little bit and give them some insight on how they might be able to engage better with labels and with management teams and with artists. And it was fun. It was really fun.
Yeah, I love that. And continuing on with the ever evolving journey that is the music business, right? You recently joined the Triple Eight team, which love Bruce, love that entire team. As the director of special projects, like what made you consider that position, and I guess what does that mean for TBD?
So TBD is still doing it. I'm still doing TBD on my own separately.
For those of you who just joined, by the way, TBD is Brad's personal management company that he founded.
Yeah, so I've got 5 artists now that are under the TBD name, and I've got 2 other managers actually that are working with me. But the Triple Eight thing, this will bring it back full circle to AC. So Paul Still, who is a partner of Triple Eight in Nashville, I worked very closely with him. We launched Drew Holcomb's festival that was in Memphis but moved to Chattanooga called Moon River. So I had been working with Paul for a while, and he had just been keeping up with me and knew I wanted to make the jump into management. And so after the crazy year I've had, he came to me and basically said, let's try to figure out a way. Like I can use some help with what we're doing at Triple Eight. And I know you're looking to get into management, and just extended an olive branch and said, let's just try to figure this out. So I'm kind of working in a consulting manner at the moment with them, but basically their whole roster between here and Austin, I'm just looking at ancillary revenue. How can we make money for their artists that's not touring related? So whether it's getting innovative with merch, or it's book deals or podcasts, or buying and selling catalogs of music, brand partnerships. I mean, really looking for pennies under every rock we can flip over, essentially, which is what every management company in the world's doing right now. But I'm excited, man, to see where that goes. And obviously my goal would be
that only started last month, right? So it's like really fresh.
Yeah, super, super fresh. I've known Paul for about 5 years, but only started working with them about beginning of January, beginning of this year. But I'm excited to see where it goes. And down the road, I'd love to have an equitable partnership between TBD and Triple Eight, whether it's co-managing my artist or signing new artists, but, co-manage between myself, like TBD and Triple Eight. There's a million different ways, as you know, that those deals can work out. But yeah, man, I'm super blessed. I'm super excited. They have a great roster, and they're really wanting to expand their roster and depth in the non-country and Americana space. They've got Charlotte Sands, who's a great new pop act in Nashville. Martin Johnson
We
from
love
Boys Like
Charlotte.
Gold. Yeah, the Night Game. So I'm excited to help them maybe expand that part of their team as well, looking at up and coming pop and rock acts.
Man, that's wild. And the because so I guess over at AAA, you're not anything that any project that you're managing, you would be managing under TBD. You wouldn't necessarily be managing under the AAA umbrella, unless you guys like, unless but that it sounds like there could be a possibility for that in the future.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
That's
So
awesome.
so all of my artists and all the projects I'm working on individually are under TBD, and then anything I'm working on specifically, like I'm doing some stuff with Charlotte, I'm doing some stuff with the Night Game. All of those I'm working kind of as a consultant to the managers of those artists at AAA.
Got
Uh,
it.
so it's been fun, man. It's been great, and just keeps my management brain ever evolving, which I'm thankful for.
Do you have a music video of one of your clients that you would want us to like play on stream or anything like that, or just to kind of
We
give people a
can, or we
sample?
can just put the link in the chat, maybe, if that works.
I'll put. How about we do both? I'll play the video and then we can. I can put the link. Is there a particular song video you have in mind?
Yeah, we did a Save Our Stages video at the basement with Gold Park for that new Beautiful Desperation song. So if you do Gold Park Vivo on YouTube, it should come up.
Okay, awesome. It looks like it's. Hold on. Gold Park Vivo, you said?
Yeah, Gold Park Vivo, Beautiful Desperation should bring it up.
Gold Park Vivo. Yeah, Beautiful Desperation. Okay, cool. I will pull this up now. You should be able to see it on your screen.
That's great. That's my
There you
favorite
go.
feature of this stream.
It reminds me of Mr. Hanky, the Christmas poo. Yeehaw! Would you rather I do it like that at first?
A unison yeehaw.
It's going into no. We had a harmonized yeehaw at one point on the stream with DBMK. That was a pretty good one.
Those guys are great.
Excellent band. So I had asked you how you saw, and Hannah, all the love to you. I'm sorry I missed it the first time, but I hope that made up for it. We talked about how you saw the business evolving after and during something like the pandemic, but how do you see yourself evolving after all of this? Like, do you feel like you're going to be approaching things differently now?
Man, I think the biggest change for me is not necessarily how I approach anything that's like technical with the business or my job. I think it's just I've really taken time to just realize that not everything's as serious as maybe what I used to think it was. And if I need to let an email sit overnight and respond in the morning, I can. And if I need to cancel that coffee last minute because I just need a mental break one morning, like I can do that. That's the biggest thing. I think this industry just teaches us to go 24/7, and it doesn't need to be that way. And I think this year has taught us that we can get all the same work done that we were doing, minus producing events in real life, but we can get everything done with a quick email or a quick Zoom versus having to be in person or all that stuff. So
Trevor says that you're actually going to die if it doesn't get answered in 30 seconds and you're a terrible person and professional.
Trevor, I'm going to put him on a shot clock.
He was talking on the phone on his stream. Was that last night or the night before? I don't know. He was like on the phone, like dealing with it sounded like Anna Clendenning business, which this is the first plaque to grace the house. Is Anna Clendenning over here?
Beautiful.
Yeah. So super proud of that. What's funny though is the record I'm pretty sure is about to be platinum, and the gold one only just arrived. So we'll just put the platinum one next to the gold one.
Yes. Even it out. And then
baby. I'm gonna do A Day to Remember Marshmallow record over there at some point. We'll see.
Yes.
But I would love to talk about what you're doing on Clubhouse as well, because I love the community aspect of it.
So glad that you mentioned that, man. I actually did another one this morning.
For anybody who's on Clubhouse, pay attention to this.
Yeah, and follow me and Chris, because you're on there, Chris. So
but I'm not on there as like great as you are on there. You're on there in a great sense. Like I'm on there in the sense of like I'm just like overwhelmed and confused.
Man, I guess it's been about a month now. I've really been hitting Clubhouse hard. And by hitting it hard, I mean, I'm trying to do a weekly one that I host, but every night to kind of wind down, I'll just put my phone on Clubhouse, pick a room and just have it on in my room while I'm getting ready for bed or whatever and listen.
That chills you out. I feel like it causes me anxiety to.
Well, I have to be careful with what room I'm going into, but there's been one recently called Good Night Nashville, which has been great. It's just, people come in there and the moderators are like, whoever's got a win for today, like share your wins. And it's a really cool, like calm down for the day. But man, I just feel like I've connected with so many people in a way that I don't feel like I have over the past year with Clubhouse. And I think it's because what Clubhouse is doing so great that other social media forums don't do, not intentionally, but because of the nature of the platforms, is that Clubhouse, you have to be intent and you have to be present. The conversations don't live somewhere else afterwards. You can't go back and listen to what someone said. If Elon Musk is going to talk or someone's going to talk on Clubhouse, you can't go, oh man, I don't have time. I'll have to just watch that on YouTube tomorrow or read about it in Rolling Stone. Like you've got to be there. And if you don't hear it, you might be lucky someone else texts you a quote or whatever. But I feel like people are more inclined to interact and engage. Like people want to be heard, but they oddly will talk more when they can't be seen. So there's this weird psychological element to it as well. But yeah, man, it's been fantastic. I did a room this morning, the Nashville Big Mood. We did a radio conversation this morning with some labels and radio personalities about the evolution of of radio listeners and how TikTok and other formats are playing into that younger audience. And it went great, man. I think we got up to 125 people this morning. So
I missed out. That I was one of those people that just did that missed out. But can you like randomly see ways talking about putting links for Clubhouse in the chat? Are you able to link people to your Clubhouse, or is it they just have to search your name?
So the only way, so you have to download the app. Right now, it's only available on Apple iOS. They do not have an Android launch yet, and you can only basically I can once I have your cell phone number or someone has your cell phone number, they can send you an invite through the app. But I can't just like DM you a link on this stream or on Instagram. Like it has to be via basically text. Is the only way to do it. So
got it. Well, randomly Seaway, if you're already on it, just search our names on there and you'll find us. But if you're not on it, I have invites that I have not used, and because you're always in the chat and supportive of it, I'd be happy. Anybody who's actually watching this right now and is interested in Clubhouse and hasn't gotten involved in it yet, let me know. You are a member. Okay, great. You can search, I believe, either Voices Chris or Chris Martiniago. That is mine. Is mine Voices Chris on there too? Yeah, mine is at Voices Chris as well on there. But if anybody on here hasn't been invited to Clubhouse yet and you would like to join in and check out what Brad is talking about, and specifically like tune in on the Friday rooms that he's hosting, send me a whisper on Twitch, or email me at hellyespleasethanks@gmail.com, and I'm happy to help you out. So Clubhouse is about anything. It's not just music. There's it's basically like I think it kind of got its start with a bunch of music industry stuff, but there's tech people, there's all kinds of different professionals. Like I opened mine up right now, and I'm sure you'd have different rooms, but there's League of Extraordinary Mix Engineers, Tequila Fridays, Joe Rogan on Clubhouse, the Overflow Room. There's people talking about trading, stocks, psychology of marketing, content and creativity. It's basically like just like a constant like running panel that is happening. Like it's just a bunch of panels that are happening. You can raise your hand and join and talk. It's really interesting. So go Johnny go. If you're interested in that, just send me a message, and I'm happy to send you an invite for that. I have 5 total. They it's invite only, I guess, at the moment. So, and you could always just tune in and be like, hey, this isn't for me, and then tune out if you want. But I encourage, I've definitely learned a lot from jumping into those things, and especially the rooms that you've been a part of, Brad. So on that note, and before we get into the point of saying thank yous and shout outs and doing the raid, which I would love if you helped us guide, I would love to know if you had any advice that you would give with live shows and artists. If there's any advice that you would give to a new generation that is as in love with live shows and artists as you are, but nervous because of the state of the world and the market right now.
Yeah, I do a lot of work with Belmont, and that's a question that's come up frequently. I think that right now for people who are maybe just graduating college or artists who are young, first of all, if you're an artist, I know it sucks to not be able to play shows, but there's still maybe even more opportunity for you now to be not having to be worried and pressured about playing shows and be focusing on the brand and the music. Like it's really a time that you can do that without being bothered. That's what I've told all the artists that I manage and work with is like, I know you guys would love to be playing shows, but luckily you weren't in a place where you were depending on that financially. And no one is forcing you to do it now. So focus on the music, focus on the brand, focus on who you want to be as an artist. So whenever the gates open back up, you have no questions about who you are or what you are, and you can just hit the road. For industry people that are trying to get in, the live sector is really tough. right now, but I still think that on the label side, and Chris, you might be able to speak this more than me, obviously, but on the label side and publishing, creative, marketing, all of that stuff, I mean, those companies are still, they've had to pull back some costs a little bit, but for the most part, they're still moving forward, still taking on interns, still hiring new positions. So if you're wanting to look specifically in the live sector with a job at a promoter or working at a venue, I mean, unfortunately, what I have to say right now is, for the next 6 months, network. People are open to doing Zoom coffees and all kinds of stuff. They're wanting to connect now more than ever because they've been holed up in their houses and they haven't been able to do networking lunches and all of that. So find an email online and send an email and try to get a coffee with someone or do a Zoom with someone, and network so that whenever these jobs open back up on the live side, that you're hopefully one of the first people to be on their mind.
Yeah, and so Go Johnny Joe is asking, I hate to put you on the spot, but Belmont University is very expensive. Is it worth it for a singer looking to go into the music industry? I definitely have an answer to that as well, but I'd love to know what you think about that, Brad.
Mine might be a hot take.
Let's go, hot takes.
I think that as an artist or as a young professional wanting to get into the music business, and I'm an example of this. It's the soft skills that you have to have. I don't care what your degree says. Whenever I interview people that were working for me at AC or anywhere, whether it's interns or real positions, it's great that you went through all of these advertising and marketing classes in college and music business classes, and maybe definitions from a publishing textbook, but can you hold a conversation? Can you cultivate a real relationship with partners that matter for your artist or for your brand? Those are the things that matter. And if you have that, then I don't care if your degree is from a community college or if you don't have a degree. So many companies now are, I see so many job descriptions now that say college degree preferred, not required. And I think, Chris, you and I are around the same age. It used to be that it would say college degree required. And now it's like, especially in the entertainment world, it's like preferred. You don't have to have it. It's like college degree or relevant experience. So my recommendation is, if you want to go to Belmont, go to Belmont. If you can't afford it, get a degree wherever you can afford if you want, but work to get valuable and tangible experience while you're in school.
That's the big advice I would give too, is like too many people, and a lot of people I went to school with, like, waited until once they were done with school to go and try to get those to get that real world experience, essentially. And I think it really hurt them in just like the time that it took to get into it. Like, I started working immediately, pretty much like while I was in school, just trying to like learn everything that I could. So Hannah is asking, and this will support Go Johnny Go's question, but on a cover letter, should you include those soft skills like being organized, personable, etc.? Like, there's definitely a way that in cover letters and everything that saying those things can kind of come off as like very general, and like it's easy for anybody to say that they are those things, but it's hard for people to provide specific example. I think it's harder for people to provide specific examples of where they did that, let alone doing that on a cover letter or in a resume. Like, I personally hate cover letters. I hate resumes. I love people. I love talking to people. The reality is, as somebody who like looks at a lot of resumes and has had to be in a position of like hiring people in the past, like, and I'm not an HR person. Like, HR people now are even to the point where they're using computers to like straight up like what's in the job description is like how much of what's in the job description is in their resume, and then just show me what those ones are, and then I'll filter from there. Like, they do that. Like, for me, I very much love the people aspect of it, and it's challenging because I know what it's like going into, like, when I got my first position, like I didn't have the music business experience, but it's amazing how many jobs are like, you have to have this much experience before we even consider you. I'm like, well, like you're completely discounting the possibility that this person is great. And like, you're like, and it's really the company's loss if you really are great. But if you haven't done the work and you haven't like put yourself out there in a certain capacity, like I think you're really doing yourself a disservice. And I don't think you need to go to college to be able to accrue that kind of debt. Like I don't think it works the same way now as it did then. In my opinion, I feel like if people are like, oh, but you don't have a bachelor's degree or you don't have a master's degree, it's because those soft skills didn't feel that from you enough, and they're just using that as a justification to pass on your resume versus somebody else's.
I agree.
I think 100%. Because like I'm sure the person they hire might not have even gotten a level of education higher than you, but they put in the extra effort that the time. Like people always ask about like A&R stuff, and they're like, oh, I want to do A&R, and then I'm like, okay, cool, this is how you do A&R. The amount of people who respond to me after I explain to them how to do that is like 1 out of 29 people, maybe, and they'll maybe follow up once, and I might never hear from them again. Follow-up
skills are so important.
Dude, it's wild because people aren't in that situation. They're not asking me how do I become a good A&R person and help an artist like make the best art that they can make. They're really just asking like, can you give me a shortcut to this thing that I think that I want but probably don't?
Yeah. And I think, Hannah, to answer what you're saying about getting to the point, like I'm like you, Hannah. I know that if I get in the room, I can win. And I think in the music industry specifically, I don't know what you're trying to get into, Hannah, but there is always, I promise you, it doesn't matter who it is, what company. Yes, submit your application online because that's the first thing they're going to tell you to do. But there is someone, an assistant, there is a front desk person, there is someone that you can email and let them know, hey, I'd love to be considered for this job. You'd be surprised how much how many responses you'll get from those kind of emails because of how relationship driven the music industry is. I can't speak on that for like working at Google or working at in the tech world or anything, but for any label in town or BMI or ASCAP or any big music industry company, I can almost say that you can find somewhere online an email of someone that works there. And just, what do you have to lose? If they ignore it, they ignore it. If they hit you back, then you've got to win. So it's all about a well-crafted email every once in a while, I think.
Totally. And I mean, and Hannah, once again, to artist management, A&R, and like to your credit, Hannah, I've gotten more emails from you on the A&R thing. Like I don't have any doubts that you're going to end up landing in a great position. Just like in my limited experience, again, like I've only been doing this for 10 years now, which like seems like a long time to somebody who's just getting started, but is really not that long in the grand scheme of things when you're making it like a career. But or you can guess the email. Yeah, it's usually like first name, last name @company.com. Good suggestion, Kiwi. So you're doing all of the right things. Then it just becomes that serendipity thing that happened at the beginning, which is like the right company culture coming along and being the right fit for you, and seeing where the opportunities take you from there. And Flashdance, by the way, thank you again for the resub, my friend. Subscribed for 2 months in a row. That's awesome. Guys, I wish we could sit here and take up all of Brad's time for the rest of time and everything. And he regularly frequents the chat, which I'm very thankful for. And I appreciate your devotion to the music scene and to artists and to creativity. It's everything that I feel like Hell Yes stands for. So I just wanted to thank you not only for your time, but for everything that you do for creative people on a daily basis and all of your roles. I'm going to ask you kindly if you would be down to help us pick who we raid from here.
Yeah, but can you walk me through this real quick? Because I don't really know. Do we just get to pick anyone else? Like, how does
you get to pick anyone you want, Brad? That's the cool thing. So I usually just default to singers, but it doesn't have to be singers. It could be something completely different if you want. It doesn't even have to be in music. It could be a gamer if you want. If there's somebody you follow, if there's a game that you're just obsessed with right now, if there's like, or if you just really are feeling like watching a drummer just bang the drums or any like? Is there a vibe that you're feeling right now?
Are people doing that Dead by Daylight on Twitch?
People are playing Dead by Daylight on Twitch. I don't know if you want to freak everybody out, like you're like, hey, the things are pretty bad right now, but I guess that things could be worse. You could be murdered by some crazy murder demon and be hung on a hook and like have to have horrible teammates try to come and rip you off of it and hobble until you heal
The truth is,
yourself.
there are 2 streamers that I watch. It's you and Tim the Tap Man. That's
Tim
my
the
honest
Tap Man.
truth. That's my honest truth.
Dude,
Those
I'm
two.
honored that I'm in that category. I feel like I'm a better Fall Guys player than Tim the Tap Man, and I would love it if somebody would tell him that and like we could go head to head on it. Honestly, but because it looks like okay, trending is DJ, radio, electronic music, dance music, musician. But you can put singing in or whatever, and there's singing, there's drummer, like you can put any kind of thing that you want. So you tell me a category.
What about some jazz?
Jazz?
Can we see if there's anybody doing some jazz? I'd love to raid some jazz if that's happening.
Let's see if there's jazz going on. All right. So we've got
Oh, is that guy playing a saxophone?
somebody's playing a saxophone. Let's see how this sounds. Here, I'm gonna make sure. Hold on, that you can hear it on this side.
Who is USAA
Oh,
made
no.
for? It's made for him.
Mute.
Yep.
Oh, come on. There we go. Sorry. He likes to do that. All right, here we go.
Residency, good to see you. Sherlock, always a pleasure. I wore your scarf today. It was very snowy and slushy outside, and your scarf kept me warm in my trek to the Korean Cultural Institute. And, yeah.
The Korean Cultural Institute.
Nui Ninja, how's it going? Koo's Dog, I'm glad you guys are holding up, and that's awesome of Exhibitry to come stop by, deliver some things to
So it
you.
looks like professional musician based in New York City, loves video games and the communities they create, streaming live music twice a week with occasional video games.
Awesome.
Sounds like me, like music content with the occasional video games.
Helping out all you guys as well, so awesome. And glad to hear you guys are holding up. I mean,
Brad, can you hear me?
rough situation out
Cool.
there, so we really appreciate you tuning in regardless, and we're going to do our best to keep you happy
I
and
think we
warm
do
with
it
our
with
music
this
here
guy.
tonight.
Let's see
Thank
how.
you. We got a little bit of a late start. I'm currently engaged in a chamber ensemble commitment at the Korean Cultural Institute here, and they're doing like a recording, filming project.
I wonder if the
with
snow
Korean
interfered
Cultural
with any of
Institute
that.
Quartet, so it's going to be really cool. But I've been doing rehearsals and kind of just having to stay.
I want to see
sort of
how this
isolated,
goes.
Except going there all week, so that's been kind of the delay. So thank you guys.
Oh,
for
it's
tuning in.
followers only chat. That's a no-no.
Usual.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I want our friends to be able to show how they feel, and to you have to
absolutely.
follow in order to say hi. I don't like that. It's a Twitch no-no. Here we go. Some jazz guitar, blues, and bossa nova. I love that musicians are also having gamer chairs. Which my chair is supposed to arrive today. I'm gonna have a gamer chair, guys. I'm gonna be a music person with a gamer chair. It's supposed to arrive soon. I've been literally here. I'm gonna show you guys. The chair that was supposed to be purely decorative, but ended up being the chair I've sat in for a year. Look at this. Look at this. Okay, so this is pretty good. This is pretty good. Let's look at the other option. It's a violin. You said you were a Yellow Card fan. This guy is better at violin than I'll be at anything in my life. And this person does song requests. So I'm leaving it up to you, Brad.
I think we do this guy, and we have Trevor ask if he'll do Only One by Yellow Card.
All right, Wally, you got to drop the request. Everybody who's in this who has never done a raid before, which if some of you guys are still here from, we'll see. Maybe he'll let us. I'll pass it along to you, Wally, and you'll be the one that shares it. But let me lower this because we're gonna get to listen to the beautiful music in a minute. But for anybody who's new to raiding, we're basically everybody who's here watching this stream right now. We're gonna go and support this creative stream. Please go crazy in the chat. Drop hell yes emotes if you're subscribed and you have them. If you don't, you can just say hell yes in the chat. That's totally cool. No judgments whatsoever. I will say that the sticky notes look kind of cool in the chat, just my opinion. But besides that, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you, Brad, for all of the time that you gave us today. I can't.
It's really fun, man. Really fun. Thanks for having me.
No, it's genuinely like it's always great to be able to catch up with you, but I'm having even more fun getting to share that experience with friends that are on the stream. And to all of the new people who are here, thank you so much for coming here. Mondays we do a stream that's around released music. It's an A&R based stream that has a playlist that comes along with it. If you want to follow it and check out some of the music that we're discovering as we're doing that, that's the link that I just dropped in the chat. And then on Wednesdays we do unreleased demo listening. So if you're a singer, you're an artist, you're a producer, you're a writer, and you're working on something and you want not only my opinion but a community's opinion, please come through on Wednesdays and share that music with us. I can't tell you how much I love this community and how much I appreciate all of you guys for being here. Brad, thank you again for being here. This will be on YouTube, so if you want to like grab some cool quotes at some point down the road and share with friends or anything like that, there's plenty of just knowledge being dropped left and right from our friend Brad here. Brad, thank you so much for doing this. I can't wait till we can meet up in person and compare our beards and
We're looking good
in real life. Yeah, I'm trying my best. Yours looks more full and beautiful, but I'll get there. You're my inspiration. All right, guys, go crazy in the chat. Say hello to our new friend Kurt, the violinist. Love you guys. Hell yes. See you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Stay warm. Peace.
Peace.